Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us online today for Friday Focus. For those of you that might not have joined one of these talks before, Friday Focus is an online talk series that is hosted by the Hunterian, and we are the museum and art gallery at the University of Glasgow. In each edition of these talks, we'll hear from a different speaker and we'll cover a range of topics looking at our exhibitions and displays that are happening in our venues, as well as research that goes on at the Hunterian and across the University of Glasgow, and all the exciting and interesting work that happens behind the scenes with our collections. So today I'm really pleased to be joined by my colleague, Dr. Andy Mills, who is Curator of Archaeology and World Art here at the Hunterian. And today we're going to be looking at the art of Papua New Guinea that is held in the Hunterian collections. So there'll be a bit of a presentation from Andy, and then there's going to be some time at the end for any questions that you might have. And you can pop your questions in the chat by clicking at the speech bubble, which should be at the bottom of your screen somewhere. And I will read those out for you at the very end. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us today. And I will hand over to Andy now to deliver this week's talk.
Thanks, Eleni. Hi, everyone. I have got a paper to read for you, and we're just going to have a quick overview of what I think are some of the most interesting and beautiful things from Papua New Guinea in the collection, and I'm going to explain how we came about getting these wonderful artworks here at the University of Glasgow. So, Papua New Guinea is celebrating 50 years of independence this year. And to mark this golden jubilee for the nation, the Mariwai Project has been launched. This is an international initiative aiming to highlight the richness and diversity of Papuan artistic heritage and material culture in museums around the world over the next year. As curator for the Hunterian's World Art Collection and as someone who researches and writes about Pacific art history, I feel that it's particularly important for us to join in this collective effort for two closely interrelated reasons. Firstly, although our Papua New Guinea art collection is relatively small at approximately 100 objects, many fascinating artworks are included in this collection, and a significant percentage of them have been here at the University of Glasgow since 1878, meaning that this is actually quite an early collection of New Guinea art. Secondly, the Scots played an absolutely central role in both the conversion of Papua to Christianity and the imposition of British colonial government over the region altogether. Many of these individuals have close links to the university, and so I also want to discuss those. Hopefully you can see that new slide there. So, although later on I'll discuss some of the Papuan artworks that the university has acquired by other means and from other donors since the 1970s, 70% of the Hunterian's Papuan collection can be traced to two donations from two closely related Scottish missionaries employed by the London Missionary Society. The Reverend Dr. William Young Turner, MD, of whom I haven't yet found a photograph in any archives, and his nephew, the Reverend Robert Lister Turner, who you're seeing a photograph of there, bottom right. That image is in the National Library of Scotland, which has an archive from Rob Lister Turner. So both men were born and raised at the London Missionary Society's Malua Mission Station in Samoa, where William's father and Robert's grandfather, the Reverend Dr. George Turner of Irvine in Ayrshire, worked for over 40 years as superintendent missionary of the LMS in Oceania, training Samoan, Cook Islander, and British missionaries for deployment in various parts of the Pacific. Both William Young Turner and Robert Lister Turner were also graduates of this university, members of the Glasgow University Missionary Society, and Presbyterian ministers ordained here in the city. So the London Missionary Society, just tiny bit of background if you don't know, was a British Congregationalist missionary organization responsible for converting people to Protestant Christianity in many parts of Oceania, as well as Asia, Africa, and the Americas. The LMS placed British missionaries in Tahiti, further to the east, as early as the 1790s, late 1790s, followed by British and Tahitian missionaries in the Cook Islands in the 1820s, then British and Central Polynesian missionaries in Samoa and Vanuatu in the 1830s, then doing the same in New Caledonia and Niue in the 1840s, progressively expanding Protestant Christianity further and further west. It wasn't until 1874, however, that the LMS made a concerted effort to introduce Christianity to Papua, with the arrival of Englishman W.G. Laws, this gentleman with the very large beard you're seeing top left there, who, with his wife Frances, claimed to be the first two Europeans to migrate and settle in southeastern New Guinea. Laws was trained by George Turner in Samoa and placed by him in Niue. Our university awarded Laws a doctorate in divinity in 1890, as it had previously done for George Turner himself, and also for David Livingstone, the famous Scottish missionary of Africa. 3 years after he arrived, Laws was joined by the Reverend James Chalmers, bottom left there, of Inverary in Argyll, who had met George Turner while volunteering at the Glasgow City Mission in 1860 and decided to join the missionary effort in the Pacific. So it's said that both Laws and Chalmers acted as translators for the local people of Central Province when Commodore James Erskine of the Royal Navy declared the southern part of what is now PNG a British protectorate in 1884. When the territory of Papua, or British New Guinea as it came to be called, was annexed 4 years later in 1888 by the pre-Federation government of Queensland, the first appointed colonial representative was Lieutenant Governor William MacGregor of Aberdeenshire, who also donated a very large and interesting collection of Pacific art to the University of Aberdeen. So all of these figures highlight the fact that within the broader global network of British colonialism, the Scots in particular played a central role in the colonization and conversion of Papua, a trend you can also find playing out in Fiji, in Vanuatu, Nova Scotia, Quebec, Ghana, Malawi, the USA, and South Korea. So, bordered to the west by Netherlands, New Guinea, as you can see here on the map, which was annexed by the Dutch in 1848, and to the north by German New Guinea, annexed by Germans in 1884. This British imperialist expansion can be seen as motivated by the same processes of economic greed and growing geopolitical insecurity that caused the so-called scramble for Africa at precisely the same time and ultimately led to the First World War. When war broke out in 1914, the Australians quickly invaded German New Guinea and then controlled the eastern half of the New Guinea mainland and the Bismarck Archipelago as the territory of Papua and New Guinea until Papuan independence was achieved in 1975, 50 years ago. So, why does all of this matter? All of this matters for our understanding of the Hunterian's Papuan art collection because the 40-odd artworks that we received from the Reverend William Young Turner Sr. in 1878 and the 30-odd artworks we received from the Reverend Robert Lister Turner in 1910 were collected in a period where British missionary influence and political control extended over only the southern coastal seaboard and the southeastern island groups of New Guinea, this pink area that you can see on the map there. Therefore, the overwhelming majority of these 70 artworks come from what are now Central Province and Milne Bay Province of southern Papua New Guinea. Consequently, this museum doesn't hold impressive art collections from, for example, the New Guinea Highlands or the Bismarck Archipelago, areas famous for their art. And you will find that kind of material in other UK museums. That said, later on, I'm going to show you some of our items from the north of the mainland of New Guinea that were acquired from other sources in more recent times. So, William Young Turner Sr. was a medical missionary based primarily at the mission station and hospital at Port Moresby in 1875 and 1876. William's missionary ambitions were cut short by tragedy when his wife, Mary Ann, died from malaria in 1876, causing him to leave the LMS completely and return to Glasgow. So he was only in New Guinea for a very brief period of time. He donated 40 artworks, primarily produced among the Motu and Kerepuna people of Central Province, where he lived and worked. Although his stay in New Guinea was relatively brief, therefore, he is notable for writing the first description of Motu culture in print. Conversely, Robert Lister Turner, his nephew, went to Papua in 1902 and stayed there for almost 40 years. He was principal of the Vatarata Missionary College in Central Province, teaching a broader range of students from several different parts of southern New Guinea. Compared to the donations given by his uncle 35 years earlier, his smaller collection of 30 items donated in 1910 is more culturally diverse and geographically broad. R.L. Turner was more of a teacher missionary than a medical missionary like his uncle, and he's now best remembered in PNG for producing an early grammar of the Motu language, which you can see bottom right there. So, during William Young Turner's time living at the mission house in Port Moresby in 1875 and 76, it was a relatively small village on the coast, rather than the city of 400,000 people it is today. Moresby sits on the traditional tribal lands of the Motu, Koyari, and Koitapu people, who were some of PNG's earliest converts to Christianity. Motu was the first Papuan language into which the Bible was translated, and it was the medium of schooling within the mission schools set up by the LMS. During the 19th century, the Motu were famous for conducting a seasonal trade network along the south coast of Papua called the Hiri, traveling in beautiful Lagatoi ships like the one you can see in this photograph here on the bottom left. Um, uh, these This trade, connected Central Province to the Papuan Gulf, 300 kilometers to the west. And because of this, the Motu language served as a lingua franca for this part of New Guinea and is still one of Papua New Guinea's official languages today. One of the most important Motu trade commodities in this Hiri economic network were the earthenware pots, like this one, donated by William Young Turner in 1878. This is a narrow-mouthed hotu, a water carrier, as you can see, and other forms, wider-mouthed uro forms, were used for cooking, and open now bowls for serving food. Now, these were one of the principal art forms of Motu women, and are still made today by female art potters in Central Province. As well as being central to the lives of the Motu and their neighbours in Central Province, these vessels were traditionally also highly prized as imports by the Alema and other tribes of the Papuan Gulf, and for which the Gulf peoples exchanged their valuable sago carbohydrates extracted from sago palms in the deltas of the rivers that come down into the Papuan Gulf. Now, another important female art form practiced by many different ethnic groups in PNG is the production of beautiful finger-looped string bags, which are known generally under the name bilam, and which have become synonymous with traditional custom and Papuan cultural identity throughout the country. Looped string bags like these come in a huge diversity of sizes and shapes across many of PNG's various cultural groups and regions, serving a range of different purposes, from everyday carrying of personal effects to bringing horticultural produce home from the garden, acting as baby carriers and cradles, and even serving as garments and fashion statements for both women and men. The natural brown fibers that you can see here, processed from the inner bark or bast of various species of tropical fig trees, split into thin strips and rolled between the palm of the hand and the thigh. The fundamental characteristic of the looping technique used, like European knitting, is that the fibers are almost never knotted together, allowing the finished bag to stretch and expand and adapt to the form of the many things that it's asked to carry. These Motu bilums are called kiapa in the Motu language. These three were collected by William Young Turner in 1875 and illustrate the natural fiber colors and dyes available in the pre-colonial period, as well as the interesting range of geometric key motifs produced with them. Now, it's interesting to compare those with the Motu Kiapa collected 35 years later by Robert Lister Turner around 1910. You can easily see one of the clear artistic outcomes of British colonial assimilation over that time span, the introduction of cheap processed dyes, which the British specialized in amongst other nations, whether synthetic or organic. This general trend towards vibrant primary artificial colors is something that continued throughout the 20th century, although it's interesting to note that Motu Lupas still produce and sell traditional natural colored bilums today. It's also worth noticing the difference here between the larger woman's bag on the right-hand side and the smaller man's bag on the left-hand side in a matching set here. So this next artwork I want to show you, this is a materially very complex musikaka or kapore breast ornament, and it was collected by Robert Lister Turner between 1902 and 1910. So traditionally, these ornaments were worn and used by both Koyari and Motu men of Central Province as success-promoting magical devices, both for the hunting of wallabies, cassowaries, and cuscus, and when going into battle against other men. They were clasped between the teeth when throwing a spear or shooting the bow. So what you're looking at here is a plate of boiled and flattened turtle shell, cut into the shape of a quadruped's skin. Onto this base are glued in the center the sanded down end of a venomous conus shell, surrounded by the split tusks of wild boars and the poisonous red seeds of the rosary pea plant. And hanging underneath a small bunch of orange, what I suspect are cockatoo feathers, inside a folded envelope of coconut tree spave. So this accumulation of materials from dangerous animals and poisonous plants nicely expresses the enormous diversity of organic materials employed in jewelry and body adornments throughout New Guinea. And this is something you also see in several pieces of Motu men's jewelry from Central Province that were also donated to the Hunterian Museum. So this remarkable Tubuka headdress of cassowary feathers on the left here, which Robert Lister Turner's donation describes in his donation list as quote unquote a sorcerer's headdress. Whether that's true or not, I couldn't possibly say. Is a very, very good example of cassowary feather work. So the two fillets that you're looking at are for the wearing on the sides of the head, and each one consists of several hundred cassowary feathers, tightly wrapped at the quill with fiber cordage, which are then laid down in multiple layers, and the whole fiber binding system is then covered with bark cloth here for comfort of the wearer. And another remarkable piece of organic Motu jewelry is this piece here on the right. It's a forehead ornament formed from, as you can see, a hornbill beak, into which a piece of unplucked cassowary skin has been inserted. And prestigious jewelry items like this were generally reserved by early 20th century men for traditional ceremonies and dancing, and weren't often seen by other people between times. So as a result of that, they would have a big, impressive impact when they were seen. So moving away from Central Province now to the southeast of Papua New Guinea, to Milne Bay Province. The Bird's Tail Peninsula that you can see here on the map, top left, and the archipelagos clustered around its southeastern tip. A distinctive feature of Robert Lister Turner's 1910 donation to the museum is the strong presence of art from this region. The London Missionary Society only expanded its missionary activities into this part of New Guinea from 1877 onwards. So this kind of material from this part of the country is absent from William Young Turner's earlier donation. We know that Robert Lister Turner was teaching students from Milne Bay at the Vatarata Seminary from 1902 onwards, and making periodic visits along the coast to the mission stations there. So the culture of this region, collectively referred to as Massim culture in the cultural literature, is extremely rich, and the visual arts play an important social role and a cultural role here. It's also true that some of the most important academic works in the anthropology of art have studied Masim culture for its iconographic refinement and the complexity of its cultural context. Now, there are several very, very lovely Milne Bay artworks here in Glasgow to choose from, but I want to start just by showing you this storage basket with a braided ornamental strap, or carrying or suspension strap. So this basket, probably from the Kirawina, formerly known as Trobriand Islands, is woven in a local leaf fiber called Riu Riu, and it has an inner form supporting it, made from thick strips of pandanus leaf. So the braided fig bark that is constituting this beautifully braided strap here. And the tassels are particularly nice additions. And here you can see one of the most westerly uses of the white egg cowrie, the ovula ovum, there, which is an increasingly important jewel, organic jewel, that you see in the art of remote Oceania, moving further out eastwards into the Pacific Ocean. So, the Massim Cultural Institution, probably best known internationally, is the Ring exchange system of the Kirawina Islands, famously described in the early 20th century by the Polish anthropologist Bronislaw Malinowski in his famous classic work of early anthropology, Argonauts of the Western Pacific. And across a network of 18 islands in the east of Milne Bay province, Moali, white conus shell armlets, which is what you're looking at bottom left there, and Solava, red shell disc necklaces, circulate in opposite directions through highly ceremonial exchange voyages. And we are very fortunate to have this beautiful Moali armlet here in the collection. So, moving on again, still with Milne Bay Province, the recreational chewing of crushed betel nuts for their stimulant effects has been an integral part of Papuan culture for centuries, imported in remote antiquity from island Southeast Asia, where betel nut, or pan, as it's called in Southeast Asia, is also widely enjoyed. Like many others, this recreational drug has an entire material culture complex of paraphernalia surrounding its consumption. Foremost among these are the decorative bottle gourds used to contain powdered coral limestone, chewed in small quantities with the betel nuts to activate their stimulant properties. Into these carefully shaped containers are dipped lime spatulae. In many cases, spatulae are simply round-ended sticks, like the smaller example that you can see on the left. This gourd is about the size of a grapefruit. I would say it's quite small, in contrast to the larger gourd, about the size of a football, that you can see here on the right. So, in the Kirawina Islands, we often see elaborately carved spatulae incorporating animal or human forms, relief carved scroll work, and lime inlaid engraving patterns, which is what you're looking at in the center here. This reflects the highly prized and personalized nature of these implements, which betel nut chewers carry around with them most of the time. Now, the last region of PNG I want to talk to you about today, um, and show you some selected artworks from, is the northern and northeastern mainland, an area of the country dominated by two of Oceania's largest rivers, the Sepik River in western Sepik and eastern Sepik provinces, and the Ramu River in Morobe and Madang provinces there. And those two rivers you can see are in this oval area I've highlighted for you there. So, as I mentioned earlier, this part of New Guinea was under German colonial control during the period our Turner missionary donors were living further south prior to 1914. And because of this, the smaller number of artworks that we hold from this region of New Guinea were all purchased at auction in London during the period immediately after independence in 1975, or were donated to the museum by art collectors even more recently than that. So, one example of this in the Hunterian's collection was the 1980 purchase of this Barag mask at Sotheby's auction house by Professor Frank Willett, the museum's first director, and someone with a strong art historical interest in masks. Now, barrag masks like this are produced by sculptors of the Turubu people living along the banks of the lower Ramu River in Madang province. Traditionally, barrag masks are used in Turubu initiation ceremonies, festivals that celebrate the annual yam harvest, and we'll come back to yam harvest in a minute, and magic intended to promote successful hunting, where they manifest the spirits of ancestors. Now, with a distinctive and defined sculptural style that's become very popular with foreign art collectors for decades. And now it's said that barrag masks, which exhibit the shorter nosed form that you see in this example here in the Hunterian's collection, that those masks are traditionally associated with female ancestral spirits. And as you can see, it's a very, very positive representation in the mask, which is nice to see. So, um, another of Frank Willett's purchases for the museum is this Baba Tagwa mask from the Abalam people of the Middle Sepik River in West Sepik Province. This is a basketry helmet mask, as you can see, and it's one of the many artworks produced by Abalam men as part of their traditional ceremonial cycle surrounding the coming of age ceremonies for young men in Abalam society. Now, the Abalam initiation cycle occurs around once every decade, and for this purpose, a massive and elaborately painted, beautiful ceremonial house, the House Tambaran, which is what you can see in this 1970s photograph here on the right, is built in the bush. Many of the images painted onto the house Tambaran depict the Abalam's paramount ancestral deity Ngwandu, and the initiation requires that the boys enter into the house and ritually encounter and confront Ngwandu in a secret sacred space forbidden to women and children. Having taken on this challenge, the boys are then instructed in the qualities of good Abalam citizenship and manhood before emerging as initiated young men. Now, Babatagwa masquerade characters like this example serve the customary function of guarding the house tamboran and have a peculiar and disquieting mix of human and animal features without belonging in either category. And here's the final Papuan artwork I'd like to show you today, and the latest addition to the Hunterian's Papuan collection is this Yena mask, also from the middle reaches of the Sepik River, which was bequeathed to the museum in 2019 by the art collector Philip Bruno. Now, Yena masks are made and used in several Middle Sepik societies, including among the Abalam, the Washkuk, the Nkuma, and as here, the Kwoma people. This example has many of the qualities of Middle Sepik art that have attracted collectors internationally. The high level of stylistic formalization, the multiple nested and abstracted human faces, so that you are confused and don't necessarily know whether you're looking at eyes or face paint or something else. And also the strong ochre-based color schemes that you can see exhibited here. The Yena ceremony celebrates the yam harvest, and these huge masks, this one is over a meter tall and weighs an absolute ton, and then not worn, but stood up on top of a large pile of the freshly harvested yams, and a successful crop which is recognized as a gift from the ancestral spirit that the mask represents. Songs and dances then address the ancestor and give thanks to them for feeding the people. So, very quick whistle stop tour of that. Unfortunately, that is all the time that I've got today to show you highlights from the Hunterian's Papuan art collection. Hopefully, I've managed to give you at least an introductory taste of this remarkable nation's unique artistic subtleties and refinements in jewelry, in ceramics, in dress and textiles, in masquerade costumes, and in wood sculpture. So, as somebody who's a lover of Pacific art myself, I also hope that I've shown you Papuan art's entrancing refinement and abstraction of human, animal, and geometric forms in a myriad different ways. Its delicate use of regionally distinctive materials like shell, seeds, feathers, and fur and fibers, and also its sophisticated approach to stylistic abstraction and aesthetic formalization. Right, there we go. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Andy. That was brilliant. If anyone's got any questions, you can pop them in the chat. There is a question in here, which I will read out for you, Andy. And it says, did the LMS missionaries write about their reasons for collecting these objects?
Yes, to some extent they do. It's something I've described before, actually, is their reticence to talk about a lot of their reasons for collecting things. I think, various Pacific art historians have discussed uh, the motivation of many 19th century missionaries in particular to collect artworks and particularly religious images from cultures that they were proselytizing in order to have what's been described as key performance indicators of the progress of Christian conversion, and also to require converted people to demonstrate the sincerity of their conversion to Christianity. So there is to some extent an insidious dimension to some of the earlier collecting here, definitely. But also at the same time that that's going on, you've also got people, missionaries, wanting to generally collect artworks that are reflective of the cultural achievements and technological achievements of the people that they're living among. And you also have this dimension of educated, university educated missionaries having perceiving themselves as having a role as ethnologists, as early social scientists in countries where they hadn't necessarily undergone much cultural description before, and that runs through the Turner family very prominently. George Turner, the father and grandfather of the two New Guinea missionaries that I've talked about today, he lived in Samoa for many years, and he wrote both one book called 19 Years in Polynesia. That was his first book, and that is largely a chronicle of the process of conversion and his perceived achievements in doing that. And then he subsequently wrote a second book called Samoa 100 Years Ago and Long Before, which was essentially an early anthropological work about Samoan culture and its history and so on. So they're always kind of straddling this boundary, missionaries, between being, ideologically motivated and also being educated social scientists as well. And that's what manifests in their collecting activities, definitely. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah. Thank you, Andy. I wanted to ask actually, and it might be a tall question, but beyond kind of talks like this, I wondered what you think the role of like Western museums like the Hunterian can play in supporting education and understanding of PNG cultural heritage.
Yeah, that is a tall question. You're right. I think we have a very important role to play. I think, particularly in helping people generally to understand the way that the art history of an incredibly diverse and rich country like Papua New Guinea has changed over time. We are incredibly privileged to look after this material from the late 19th century. And the thing that really strikes me, or certainly it struck me over the last couple of weeks as I've been writing this talk, is how different the art of Papua is now to the way that it was 150 years ago. And so the value of these collections is actually really, increasing over time because it gives us the opportunity to publish and to provide access to artists, makers, and researchers from Papua and other countries in the Pacific, so that they can understand how their own great grandparents and grandparents were making things, and what kind of materials they were using, and what was the significance of all of those things. So we have a lot of responsibility to publish the material that we have in the collection, and also to make it available for repatriation where that's appropriate. But first and foremost, I think we need to make sure that people know that we have this wonderful stuff here, and that we are taking care of it and that we do value it.
Brilliant. Thank you, Andy. And just before we finish, the Mariwai Project has asked whether you can provide a reading list. So I imagine you'd probably say yes. And I can share that alongside this talk and the recording when it goes out as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I will put that together. Yes,
Brilliant.
can't provide that right now. Mariwai Project. I'll give it a go though.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Andy. And
Okay.
thank you everyone for joining us online today for this talk. A recording of this will be available on our YouTube channel in due course. And I hope you all have a lovely weekend when it comes to it.